Silence is often described as peaceful, calm, restful, something we're supposed to enjoy when the noise of the world becomes overwhelming. And yet, for many people, silence doesn't feel calming at all. It feels heavy, awkward, unsettling. It feels like something is wrong, even when nothing is. In quiet moments, sitting with someone in a room, driving without music, lying awake at night, silence can begin to press in on the mind. It can create a strange discomfort, a subtle anxiety that urges us to fill the space with words, sound, movement, or distraction. If you've ever felt uneasy in quiet moments, you're not broken. You're not strange. You're responding to something deeply psychological, something shaped by your experiences, your emotional history, and the ways you learned to connect with others. Silence doesn't feel uncomfortable for everyone, but for those it does affect, it often carries meanings that go far beyond the absence of sound. For many people, discomfort with silence begins early in life. In childhood, our emotional environment teaches us what quiet means. In homes where conversation, noise, or emotional expression were constant, silence may have been rare. Quiet might only have appeared during moments of tension, conflict, or emotional withdrawal. Maybe silence followed an argument. Maybe it meant someone was angry. Maybe it meant love felt uncertain. Over time, the brain learns to associate quiet with danger, rejection, or emotional instability. In other homes, silence might have meant being ignored, being unseen, being left alone with feelings that no one helped you process. If you grew up feeling emotionally unsupported, silence may have felt like abandonment. No one checking in, no one asking how you felt, no one helping you feel safe. So, as an adult, quiet moments can unconsciously reactivate those early emotional memories. Your body responds as if something is wrong, even when nothing is. For some people, silence also becomes uncomfortable because it removes distraction. When there is noise, conversation, music, or constant stimulation, the mind stays occupied. There's less room for uncomfortable thoughts to surface. But when everything goes quiet, the inner world becomes louder. Worries, regrets, self-criticism, unresolved emotions, old memories, doubts about the future, all begin to rise. Silence becomes a mirror. And not everyone feels ready to face what they see. If you're someone who stays busy, keeps background noise on, scrolls endlessly, or fills every gap with conversation, it may not be because you love stimulation. It may be because quiet feels emotionally unsafe. It gives your thoughts too much space. It forces you to feel things you've learned to avoid. There is also a strong social component to discomfort with silence. Many people grow up learning that being valuable means being entertaining, helpful, responsive, or interesting. Maybe you learned that you were praised when you talked, performed, made others laugh, or kept things lively. Maybe attention came when you filled space. Over time, you internalize the belief that silence equals failure, that if you're not contributing, you're not enough. So, in conversations, silence can feel threatening. It can feel like rejection, like boredom, like you're doing something wrong. You might feel pressure to speak even when you have nothing meaningful to say. You might over-explain, overshare, or rush to fill pauses, not because you want to dominate conversations, but because quiet makes you anxious about how you're being perceived. For people with social anxiety, this discomfort can be especially intense. Silence becomes a stage where self-judgment takes over. In quiet moments, the mind starts scanning for mistakes. Did I say something wrong? Do they think I'm awkward? Am I being boring? Without external input, your inner critic gets louder. Silence becomes proof in your mind that you're failing socially. Trauma can also play a powerful role. If you've experienced emotional neglect, abandonment, unpredictable caregivers, or unsafe environments, silence may feel dangerous. In unstable situations, quiet often meant something bad was coming. It meant tension was building. It meant someone was withdrawing. It meant you had to be alert, so your nervous system learned that quiet equals threat. Even years later, your body may still react the same way. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your thoughts race, you feel restless. You may not consciously know why, but your nervous system is responding to old patterns. In adulthood, this often shows up in subtle ways. You might avoid being alone with your thoughts. You might feel uneasy in quiet relationships. You might feel the need to constantly check in, text, or seek reassurance. You might struggle to enjoy peaceful moments because your body doesn't register them as safe. There's also the emotional side of identity. For many people, silence brings up questions of worth. When nothing is happening, when no one needs you, when you're not producing or performing, you're left with yourself. And if you've never been taught that you're enough simply by existing, that can feel deeply uncomfortable. Some people learned love was conditional, that affection depended on achievement, usefulness, or emotional availability. In that case, silence feels like invisibility, like you're no longer earning your place. So you fill the space. You stay busy, you stay loud, you stay connected. Because stillness feels like disappearing, relationships often reflect this pattern. People who fear silence may feel uneasy in calm, quiet relationships. They might interpret peaceful moments as emotional distance. If their partner isn't talking, they may assume something is wrong. They may feel compelled to fix, engage, or provoke conversation, not because they want conflict, but because silence feels unsafe. This can create exhaustion, always feeling responsible for energy, always carrying conversations, always managing emotional atmosphere. Over time, this can lead to burnout, resentment, and emotional fatigue. You're never fully resting even when nothing is happening. At work, discomfort with silence can lead to overworking, overcommunicating, or avoiding downtime. You may feel guilty resting, guilty doing nothing, guilty not being productive. Quiet moments feel like wasted time, even when they're necessary for mental health. And then there's the nighttime silence. When the world goes quiet and you're alone with your thoughts, for many people, this is the hardest time. Without distractions, the mind replays old conversations, worries about the future, criticizes the past, and magnifies fears. Sleep becomes difficult, anxiety grows, silence feels overwhelming. But here's something important. Discomfort with silence is not a flaw. It's a coping strategy that once made sense. At some point in your life, staying alert, staying busy, staying engaged probably helped you survive emotionally. It helped you feel connected. It helped you feel safe. It helped you feel valued. Your mind learned that quiet was risky, so it developed ways to avoid it. The problem isn't that you fear silence. The problem is that your nervous system hasn't learned yet that quiet can also be safe. Healing begins with gently changing that relationship. It starts with noticing, not judging yourself for reaching for noise, not shaming yourself for feeling restless, simply becoming aware. I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm wanting to distract myself. I'm feeling uneasy with stillness. Awareness softens automatic reactions. Then comes curiosity, asking yourself what silence brings up. Is it loneliness? Fear of being forgotten? Self-criticism? Old memories? Uncertainty? You don't need to analyze everything at once. Just listening to your inner experience builds emotional trust. Slowly, you can practice safe silence. Small moments, sitting for 1 minute without stimulation, taking a quiet walk, leaving the music off for part of a drive, sitting with a cup of tea in stillness, not forcing calm, just allowing quiet to exist. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. That's normal. You're teaching your nervous system something new. You're showing it that nothing bad happens when things are quiet, that you're still safe, that you're still whole, that you still matter. Over time, silence can become something different. It can become a place where you hear yourself clearly, where you reconnect with your emotions, where you notice what you need, where creativity emerges, where rest becomes real. You may also learn that you don't have to earn your worth through constant presence. You are valuable even when you're quiet, even when you're still, even when you're doing nothing. In relationships, this means learning that shared silence can be intimacy, that sitting together without words can be connection, that peace doesn't mean distance, it means safety. In your personal life, it means allowing yourself to rest without guilt, to pause without fear, to exist without performance. Silence doesn't have to be empty. It can be full of self-acceptance, self-trust, and emotional clarity. If you've spent your life avoiding quiet, learning to embrace it will take time. Be patient with yourself. You're unlearning patterns that were built for protection. That deserves compassion. You are not weak for feeling uncomfortable with silence. You are sensitive to emotional cues. You are attuned to connection. You learned early how important relationships and safety were. Those are strengths. They just need balance. And balance comes from knowing that you don't have to fill every space to be loved. You don't have to make noise to be seen. You don't have to stay busy to be worthy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit quietly with yourself and realize that you are already enough. And in that quiet, gentle space, healing begins.